And the first thing I wanted to ask you about was, when we started making this play, and we started down a different road. And this often happens when you're creating stories from scratch. And we were led to a very unexpected and most different path. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Well, I wanted to write a comedy. It's kind of my specialty. And the idea that I had involved a gay Republican. And we had talked about it, and I saw this whole Republican in the heartland, who's closeted and so on. Anyway, so then Trump was elected. And there was no comedy there. It was just a slog. And in fact, I remember the first draft that I sent you, the character was not even in the play. I could not write him. It was very, very difficult. And but the central idea around a kind of a betrayal of a writer writing about somebody in their life without the person's permission, I was able to retain that. And actually, of course, that can be very comic unless it happens to you.
Of course. Did you find it easy to make that shift? I mean, I remember that conversation very well when we were both sort of, ear to ear and in that conversation going, oh, this doesn't feel quite right. And it definitely didn't feel right for you. The inspiration just wasn't there. It wasn't flowing for you. And I just wondered, did that cause a great deal of anxiety, or did you just sort of go, nope, this is now the path that we need to be on?
Well, when I was able to develop some characters that I really have a lot of affection for and whom I can relate to and whom are absolutely terrible and adorable in their humanity. So being able to write those people instead of somebody who I was like, couldn't get my mind around actually was just much easier.
Yeah.
And so, especially when you're writing a comedy, you really need to have affection for the people. I don't really like comedy that's too mean.
Yeah. And I remember feeling actually, relieved that you were going to feel relieved as you got onto the new path, because I mean, there's nothing more difficult than, it's hard enough to write a play, but writing one that you don't want to write is even more difficult. Yeah. Well, along that vein, whenever I work with any of the writers in the NCTC New Voices, New Works program, one of our topics of conversation as we're sort of germinating the idea and moving our way through the process, a prompt or a sort of a touchstone that I always come back to with our writers, and that is, why this play now? What about it sort of, resonates in, the moment that we're in. This is a very extraordinary moment that we're living in. And I know that we all need to get a laugh probably pretty soon.
Yes.
But for you in general, for the story and the themes in the story, why now? Why would this story resonate?
Thanks, Ed. Well, I think it's the thing that appeals to me so much about it. There is a betrayal that happens in the play, and it's not a sexual betrayal. It's this, writing about someone without their permission. And so many plays that I've seen, it's just really hard to figure out where do you go from there? So you've had a betrayal. It's a love story. How are these people going to manage to work this out? And what I've found with writing is that, and on stage, is that processing is never any fun to watch, particularly on stage. So it can't be that. So what is it? So it was really lovely to me in thinking about forgiveness and thinking about how people can come back from something that was difficult in their relationship, and actually trying to model that on stage to show in a heartfelt way how people can work to put their relationship back together after that.
Yeah. And another thing that emerged along this path was a sort of interesting look at the industry that is known as the self-help industry. And there's this whole sort of slew of how-to manuals, you know, how to be a better this, a better person, how to be a better partner, how to be a better spiritual individual, a better citizen. You know, did that come from some place in particular for you, or is it just an observation of the world around you?
Well, it actually came from my friend and I walking into a bookstore, and we went to the self-help. Self-help is some multi-billion dollar industry. Right. In America, it's very American to want to improve yourself for whatever reason. So we went over and we started looking at the books, and we started looking at the authors. We turned the books over and looked at the authors, and none of them looked very happy.
Right.
And I thought, well, isn't this interesting? You know, there's people telling you kind of how to live your life, and I wonder what their lives are like, and if they're actually able to apply some of these odd
these techniques to their own lives.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue to setting up the scene that we're about to see before we bring the actors and our director onto the screen with us. Would you mind letting us know what we're going to be viewing here?
I will. MJ Powers, who's played by Cary and Rosko today, is a popular author and a self-styled relationship expert speaking at conferences around the country. And MJ's got a new lover, Natasha, played by Chelsea Bearce, who is not entirely convinced that MJ's techniques actually work in the real world of their own relationship. Enjoy.
Wonderful. Let's bring our artists onto the screen, please. Welcome, Chelsea and Cary, and our director, Nikki. So please let us have it.
MJ on stage presenting at a conference.
What you need to know about me is what a failure I was. As a writer, as a wife, as a human being who was, at heart, just like you, trying to be happy. I failed at getting myself published for nearly 10 years. My inbox, my mailbox, flooded with publishers saying, no thanks, it's not a good fit, good luck with the manuscript. And I had to ask myself, should I give up on my dream? Should I spare myself the constant rush of rejection, hurt, and shame? The answer, of course, is no. I was sure there had to be a solution. Here's the thing. In the strangest way, and despite my many enormous blind spots, help and support was all around me in the guise of the complicated connections in my life. We all struggle, but the reality is, you know what? Let me show you.
Lights shift, and MJ is with Natasha in a hotel room in Atlanta. Natasha is wrapping a gift, a purple Scorpio t-shirt that MJ can't see. MJ paces while practicing her speech.
How much time have I got?
1 minute less than the last time you asked. MJ, relax. It's not like this is your first keynote.
Are you listening or are you rapping?
Both.
So I close with a slide that has the pointy finger and reads, rock your relationship. And then I say, commanding voice, Accept no limitations. See, instead of imitations, it's.
Yeah, no, I got that.
And then I yell, crushing it. And the music blasts. I'm using I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. And as I swagger out, I high five a few hands in the front row.
Wait. This is a relationships conference.
Yeah.
Well, I Will Survive is a breakup song.
Oh, where's my red pencil? Fixed. Closing music aside, what do you think?
Natasha trims wrapping paper.
You know, I always end up with a hunk of extra paper. It's just okay. We should do something to keep you your mind off of the presentation. Okay. Oh, I know. We'll play a game.
Why would we do that?
How about overrated, underrated?
I need to head to the conference.
No, you don't. You're winding yourself up like a spring and your voice will be all squeaky. Come on. It won't take long. It'll help you. Relax.
If you say so.
Okay. The game. Something that I think is overrated is porn that has a plot.
Okay, what?
All that fast forwarding, please. Ugh. And underrated hotel mini bars. Liquor and chocolate. I'm going to install one in my apartment.
I did not know about these very interesting opinions that you hold.
Well, that's why it's such a great game. Your turn. Overrated?
Bruschetta.
Explain this bizarre hot take of yours, please.
Soggy bread, a sheen of oil, flavorless tomatoes that fall in your lap.
God, now that you mention it.
Underrated. I know. You are underrated.
And why do you say that?
Because you deserve the world. What's with the wrapping? Is it a present? Even more important, is it for me?
A friend's birthday. Someone I worked with.
Mysterious. Nothing for me?
Natasha gets a coffee mug out of her tote.
For you. From the Pump Pot on La Cienega, their affogato is more popular than Rihanna's Instagram.
There's still some coffee in this.
Natasha takes the mug, drinks the coffee, and hands it back to MJ.
When I was a kid, I used to wish somebody would spoil me. Then I found you.
God, you're a nut.
I'll treasure this always. So, my keynote. What do you think?
You mean you want me to give my opinion?
On the speech, yes. The law of attraction, harnessing the positive power of the universe to manifest the remarkable relationship you want.
You know I'm in your corner, right?
You don't like it?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, come on, Tasha, I need feedback.
You sure?
Of course.
You have to go on stage in less than an hour. So
It doesn't matter. Please.
Well, the law of attraction part, forget it. It's fantastic.
Fantastic. High praise.
No, I mean, it's fine.
I like fantastic better.
The whole thing, it's just very close to being a lecture.
A lecture? You mean dry?
It's so prescriptive.
You realize that people look to me for answers.
Should they, though? I tend to give candid feedback, MJ.
People want to be more happy in their relationships. They want romance, and so they turn to me.
And you tell them to crush it. It's fairly vague and also violent.
You weren't listening. You were rapping.
Okay, let's just cuddle or something. Okay. Honestly, I don't want to sit here and list, all the problems that are with it.
can't believe I'm asking this, but can you be more specific?
Okay. At one point, you say Finland is the happiest place on earth.
Yes, it is.
Everyone knows that the happiest place on earth is Disneyland.
Based statistics from the World Happiness Study, it's Finland. The researchers cross-referenced a variety of factors and...
Is there any evidence that Finlandians use...
Finns.
Are you positive? Finns? Sure. Is there any evidence that Finns use the law of attraction to achieve their country's high happiness score?
Not directly.
Don't they ever doubt themselves or indulge in sad or angry or disappointed thoughts?
That wasn't part of the study.
Is there any evidence, like of any kind? I'm just asking questions, okay? You said you care what I think.
I do. Say anything.
So you believe that I personally have the power to get the universe to deliver exactly what I want. Is that right?
That's the general idea.
Then why is the Supreme Court full of right-wingers, and why doesn't this hotel room have an in-room coffee maker?
The conference is about relationships, though. Attracting the right partner using laser focus of the mind.
Are you really in a position to be dispensing relationship advice? Don't take that wrong.
My God. As a best-selling author and internationally recognized speaker, of course I'm in a position.
No. Look. Your career advice, your leadership speeches for the ladies, those are terrific. Step up to the corner office and claim what's yours. Stop apologizing all the time. Solid. But your relationship advice
is based on personal experience.
In your leadership talks, you talked about inclusivity, acceptance, support. That was brave. And in some countries, it's practically radical. When you stood up there and you said, lean in was elitist trash, and you were all like, lean out! God, that made me so proud.
Oh, the organizers panicked.
Well, I didn't know that.
Tasha, they pulled me off the stage at the La Quinta Inn in Indianapolis. It's the whole reason I've had to pivot to relationships, to steer away from controversy.
Well, may I point out that your last relationship, your major life relationship, in fact, was a disastrous and miserable marriage to a man. And for a lesbian to be...
Fine, I was married to a man. Didn't like it.
So being in a relationship that's all wrong for you, that makes you a relationship expert?
Well, it's not just one. I've been in several bad relationships.
Huh?
I did my me search, and then I applied the law of attraction to attract you into my life. And here you are.
Okay, the way I remember it, I approached you at a conference in Vail, and you hit on me so fast. What's the sound barrier?
No, you hit on me because of the vibrations I emitted. And for the last 6 months, our relationship has been perfect.
We barely see each other.
Well, we mutually agreed to that.
That is verifiably true, but does what we have, does it actually confer expert status?
Look, I have to fly around the country researching what people need to live happy love lives. And you have to
work for a living. I'm sorry. I know you need alone time to keep struggling to write the book that you're stuck on.
Thanks.
It's not a diss. Okay. Oh, okay. You need space to create a breakthrough. I get that. I write every day, and it's not like anyone's begging to publish me.
You should apply the law of attraction.
I've worked in publishing, and believe me, no aspiring author has ever wished a bestseller into existence. I'm not complaining, okay? But MJ, you you never tell your audience, you never point out that there are limitless variations on a happy relationship, that people who love each other can configure that love creatively any way they want, like we have, as long as and consent are present.
Well, that's very sweet, but
You say, accept no limitations. And then you're up there pretending like marriage is the only way to love.
well, I can't get up there and say, why not meet once a month in a hotel room? It's really hot.
You mean you can't tell the truth?
Natasha looks through MJ's notes quickly.
You said it in Albuquerque, and you said it again in this talk. The responsibility to craft a relationship falls on the individual.
What? It's true. We're each responsible to manifest the relationship we want.
What about the other person?
What other person?
Your partner, the beloved?
Oh, well, the beloved is busy crafting the relationship too. And if you're lucky, the beloved is not judging you with her white hot beams of negative energy.
What about how they feel, their needs, what they want? If you focus on creating a relationship without involving the other person, you're not being vulnerable. You're not investing your heart.
Are you self-helping me?
MJ, I don't want to fight with you, please. I flew all the way out here on Spirit Airlines.
You're right. We'll stop.
It's a well-written speech. Okay, the audience will be eating out of your hand. I mean, who can resist you?
All very good points.
Dressed like that, you're so extra.
Thank you for that feedback.
Powerful and smart. You look like your recommendations are valuable. Somehow, I believe if I follow your advice, I'm gonna have hot, passionate sex with a Sagittarius. Maybe even chocolate afterwards.
I see exactly that in your future. I should go get mic'd.
Oh, just one last thing. If we're both artisans, okay, both creating, how can we be sure that we're manifesting the same relationship?
That's how the law of attraction works.
So you adopt a certain mindset and your thoughts bring you happiness.
Yes, well said.
Then let me ask you this. Are you happy?
End scene.
Wonderful. I am start my video. There I am.
Hey.
Oh, this darn technology. That was brilliant, you guys. Really splendid. Thank you very, very much. I have to ask a few questions of all of you, and I also at this time want to invite our viewers to type any questions that they might have for our performers, our director, and our playwright, or myself. One of the questions that I have is you know, it's a whole new world. Here we are on Zoom doing this, when of course we long to be in the same room together. But as actors and as a director, and does it change the way you interpret your character, or the way in which you have to interact, or any choices that you make? I mean, how have you adjusted to all of this?
For me, it has changed a lot. It definitely forces you to listen because I know with my background and stuff in training, I thrive so much on seeing the other actors' body language and how they stand and how they're expressing, how they take my words. And it's a very physical thing for me. So it's very strange to be sitting on my bed. Like, it's just,
Sure.
it's very strange to not stand up and feel that character from your feet to your head. Because that's, whenever I do a character, I want to feel that person, you know, inside and out. And so this feels very limited. But it does really force you to listen to the other person. So.
Sure. And of course, you know, as you're listening to comedy, it's very hard, as I'm sure as actors, you know, because there's laughs that, I mean, I was laughing, but I was muted, so you couldn't hear me laughing. And I'm sure there were others in the audience as well. That must be an interesting dynamic to have to sort of deal with, because it's not that exchange with your audience is something that we also sort of thrive on, right?
It's a relationship, yeah. Having that instant feedback and instant, you know, gratification, for lack of a better term, and it becomes a relationship between the two actors and the, you know, the audience members. You know, we feed off of each other. It's a give and take of energy. So,
Sure.
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Cary Ann, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, just speaking of energy, I agree with everything that Chelsea has said, but I've also noticed at the same time that when I'm rehearsing live, I tend to get extremely keyed up. And so I find that having to stay seated and having to stay in one place kind of forces me to rein it in, forces me, as Chelsea said, to listen and to think about what I'm saying rather than all of the energy that's flowing through my body. So in a strange way, it's also been kind of instructive on how to focus that energy.
And grounding, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And from a director's point of view?
I mean, just to uplift what both Chelsea and Cary mentioned, thinking from a director's point of view, you know, you have to be mindful of that in terms of, like, if we're talking about comedy, the pacing of it and the possible lag via Zoom and other platforms that are being used. But also thinking about the way that, you know, the focus shifts in this box that we're attempting to create art in, how the focus is able to shift to the words and the definition of embodied performance in the you know, little bit that we are performing to.
Oh, great. And I just see a couple questions coming in from folks as we're running up against the clock here. I wanted to be able to get one or two of them in. One of our viewers, Madeline, writes in about with a question of what's the subtext in this scene? Why is Natasha going after MJ? I don't know if that's a question for our playwright or if that's a question for our actors.
Well, I'm glad the question is coming up. I'm glad the question is coming up because you should be wondering that. And as the play goes on, you find out more about what's going on.
Great. And you've got some there's some Pat Milton groupies in the room right now that are letting us know that they saw a rough draft reading and are very much looking forward to seeing the newer version, and that you are one of the best comedic writers in the Bay Area.
Thanks, Mom. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, I want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. It's been a real treat. I know that we all miss being in the theater together, but rest assured, as evidenced by our time together here, our short time together here this afternoon, that we are still working on making stories for you and getting as ready as we can to welcome you all back to New Conservatory Theater Center. And I know that my colleagues all around the Bay Area, and in fact, all around the country, are engaged in the same intent and long view that we will all be able to come home and enjoy our community together. So thank you very much for joining us. For our viewers, I just have a couple of shout outs as we conclude today. First of all, next week, just in time for Pride Month to roll around the corner, we'll be featuring Dusty Porn, who will be providing us with drag makeup tutorials. And as we said before we went on the air today, we wish that we had had that tutorial before our session today, but we'll have to wait until next week. Also, I wanted to say that this is a very busy birthday month at NCTC. A shout out to our beloved musical director, Joseph Wicht, our friend, the Countess Katya Smirnov-Sky has a birthday coming up around the corner. Andrea Partridge, our individual donor development officer, just celebrated a birthday. So yay, happy birthday, one and all, to all the May babies. And finally, a big special event that's coming up on May 31st. We have teamed up with the Del Shores Foundation, and Mr. Shores is hosting an all-star cast reading of Sordid Lives on May 31st at 5 p.m. You can find out all about that if you pop onto our website. The cool thing about this is that the funds that are raised from the performance, as well as the auction that will be accompanying it, will benefit 23 theaters across the United States. So when we say we're all in this together, we mean it, and we're helping each other move forward. So thank you all for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye for now.